You are listening to the Sports and Sorts podcast.
Hubbard's drilled deep to left field. Going back towards, looking up. See ya! 3,000. History.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event.
Welcome back to Sports and Sorts. This is episode 110, and we have a phenomenal show for you today. Phenomenal. Because I am Shane Moore, one of your hosts.
And I'm the Brian Man, the other host.
The bearded one. He is one of our hosts as well. And we are going to be talking about a little NFL today. Kind of NFL heavy, I would say. We got to talk about the top 8 fantasy quarterbacks for 2018. And then we are also going to dive into the Thursday night football preview with the Falcons at the Philadelphia Eagles, the Super Bowl champs. Yeah, the last 2 teams that were in the Super Bowl for the NFC are facing off in Thursday night football. And one team kind of collapsed against the Patriots. The other team beat up on the Patriots a little bit. Came, with their backup quarterback who ended up had the most jersey sales of anybody of all time, and that's including Tom Brady.
The Eagles almost collapsed in that Super Bowl.
Almost, but they held them off. They did. It wasn't
a hold off. They got down, and then they got the lead back and never gave it back.
But they did it. They had the game. They were the team. They were the team of destiny, and the Patriots and their ugly cheating ways ended up, karma came around, and they got the big L on the big stage. Although Tom Brady did throw for like 9 million yards that day, so I can't really say too much bad.
He'll be in this top quarterback listing.
So yes, most likely. So anyway, you can find this show anywhere podcasts are played. iHeartRadio, TuneIn, iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, Spotify, all those places. Any place that they are played, you can find us. Just type in Sports and Sorts. Or you can head over to our website, which is www.sportsandsorts.libsyn.com. And, of course, we are live right now on Facebook at facebook.com/Shane and the Bryman. Find us on Twitter at Shane and Bryman. Other than that, we got a great show. So let's go.
You are listening to
Facebook.
Sports and Sorts with Shane and the Bryman.
So we have 0 listeners and 0 watchers right now. So that's promising.
We're off to a good start.
Yeah, good start. I didn't post anything saying that we were going to be going earlier than our regularly scheduled program, which is usually at 11 on Wednesdays. But
could be the problem.
I did not post anything. So that is one thing. That's just throwing that out there. Oh wait, we have a listener. We have a person watching, and it is Ronnie. He actually posted a question on the page about a week ago, and it had to do with like Manu Ginobili, his retirement. We do want to talk about that. It's just unfortunately right now there's a lot of football that we have to get and talk about, and I think that maybe if we have enough time at the end, we could probably get it in during the last 4 or 5 minutes.
Outro?
Yeah, during the outro. He just said, "Commence my private showing." Oh man, this turned into like a red light special, huh? little red light district here. Is that what we got going on?
I think we got a second person who joined.
All right, so let's get right into NFL because we have a lot of NFL to cover today, and we are going to start off with our top 8 quarterbacks in the NFL. I would be kind of shocked if this list is way different. I would be shocked if this list is like completely different. I think that we're going to have a lot of the same names. I think there'll be probably different places on the list.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling that this list is going to be fairly similar. But whenever we say stuff like that, it tends to not be.
No, it usually works the other way around.
But so we'll see what happens here. So I'll start off I'll start off with my top 8. This is my top 8 fantasy quarterbacks for 2018, and I'm going to start off with 8 and go all the way down to 1. And the starting off with, I'm going to start off with a guy who has been Mr. Consistent for his career, and that is Drew Brees. Drew Brees is my number 8 quarterback. And look, he wasn't the first option for the Saints last year, as he was in many years past. But that's because he's a little bit older, and his running back situation is far superior to his receiving core. The dude threw for over 4,300 yards last year, but he only had 23 touchdowns. And it wasn't because he wasn't efficient, because he was efficient as heck. And all of that is just because he is just a very good quarterback, but he's also aging and has those extremely talented running backs. I mean, only 23 TDs is insane. We haven't seen that low of a number for him in well over a decade. I mean, he threw 24 touchdowns in 2005 with the Chargers, and you have to go all the way back to 2003 to get a lower number than 23 touchdowns. And even though I expect his touchdown passes to go up a little bit, I also expect his yards to come down a little too. But I think anyone would be happy with 4,000 yards and 26 plus touchdowns, completing 70% of your passes. I think anybody would be happy about that. So Matt Ryan is another one. He's the 7th guy. I think this guy is just a little better than Andy Dalton. I've said that for years, but he's heading into his second season with Steve Sarkisian as the offensive coordinator, has a motivated Julio Jones, the dual threat from Freeman and Coleman, the back in the backfield. Plus, he has Sanu and Hooper as 2 other hands to throw to, actually 4 other hands. And he is another quarterback who has an improved defense, and that always helps your TD totals because of better field position. So I'm not sure he will end up with 30 touchdowns, but he only had 20 last year. So I think you're somewhere between 25 to 28 touchdowns. He's going to have a fairly low interception total. He always is around that 10 mark, 12, 13 mark. So I think that with that, he's going to be the 7th. Now, this is kind of a little bit of surprise. My number 6 quarterback, that is Kirk Cousins. And I look at what Case Keenum did with this offense last year, and don't get me wrong, I think Keenum isn't horrible. He's an NFL starting quarterback, like a legit quarterback in the NFL. But he's also not great either. And Kirk Cousins was a top 12 quarterback with the Redskins team who couldn't remember his first name. And the head coach, Gruden, was a very vocal about how he really didn't want him as his quarterback. And this year's weapons, he's got Diggs, Thielen, Cook, Rudolph. I mean, it is insane, the weapons that he has. So he should absolutely break his career TD mark of 29. I think he's going to throw over 30 touchdowns this year. He's going to put up another solid season, and I think he could easily sneak into the top 5 of fantasy quarterbacks this year. And then we're going to head over to the number 5. This is the kind of the cream of the crop here. We have Phillip Rivers. Dude has weapons, has tough defense, and he's got his boy Antonio Gates back. Minus that Antonio Gates comment, Rivers has always put up numbers, and this year is going to be just as good as usual. And his defense is going to put him in some great positions, and it should get him at least an extra 3 or 4 touchdowns. So couple that with like the 4,300 yards he's going to have, 32 touchdowns. That is a hell of a season and easily in the top 5. Now we're heading to an area where I think that a lot of Patriot fans might get a little upset with because he's not number 1 or number 2, and that is Tom Brady. I think he's number 4 for me, and he's got Gronk. Edelman will be back in week 5. I'm sure they're going to find some other weird additions to make their offense super efficient and explosive. So, of course, he is on the list. And even though I think he will start to decline this year, I think it's going to be a slow decline. And his body has shown no signs of really slowing down. So, and plus, I hope that he doesn't really slow down that quickly because he's on one of my fantasy teams. So, hopefully, it won't be that drastic of a decline, and he will still put up some serious numbers. Now, number 3. Number 4? Number 4? Is that what I am at? Number 4? I think I'm at number 3. All right, number 3 is a guy who I think was the highest rated fantasy quarterback last year. Put up a ton of points. And last year he had the lowest completion percentage he has ever had. And even with that, he was still one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and that's Russell Wilson. So I expect him to get closer to that mid to high 60 completion percentage. But I'm still not sure if he can get to the 34 touchdowns that he threw last year because he just doesn't have as much talent on offense. And he does have a great sixth sense of where the defense is. And it's almost like a spidey sense. So if you add his legs into the scenario, he's going to get you some good rushing numbers in addition to the offensive numbers he's going to put through the air. So I think because of that, he's going to finish in the top 3. Now, number 2 is a guy who I have very high hopes for this year. I was riding his train last year. I'm riding the train again this year. And I am, yes, Ronnie just posted something. He said, are you ranking based on fantasy stats or best quarterback leader for their team? Based on fantasy stats. This is completely fantasy stats because you can't really, it's too tough to really put all that other stuff in there and really couple it in. It's all that at that point is really subjective. And I'm trying to make this less subjective by doing fantasy stats. So that's where we're at with that. So, and Jared Goff, and especially as I said a couple of shows ago, I think that Jared Goff is going to have the most yards thrown through the air this year. Between Gurley's incredible hands in the backfield, additions of Brandon Cooks, you have Robert Woods, who was great last year, and I think he's going to be good again. You have Cooper Kupp, as the Brian Man calls him, C-Cup, is a solid 3. And with the brilliance of Sean McVay and his balanced attack with Gurley, which will free up those wide receivers, and Goff will end up with probably over 4,500 yards through the air this year, easily. I think he's going to probably closer to like 47 maybe, and throwing 30-plus touchdowns. That will easily land him in the second slot for me. And then I feel like the number one stud fantasy quarterback is Aaron Rodgers. And I love this guy. I think he's going to pick defenses apart with Jimmy Graham and his backup tight end, Mercedes Lewis. Devontae Adams stretching the field. It's going to free up Graham for more touchdowns. His upgrades on defense will help give the offense a little bit of a rest. And, particularly their upgrades in the secondary. And I think the strength of, the preseason when Reggie Gilbert has come on, I think it could be a huge surprise for them this year. But I think even Jamal Williams in the backfield is going to be a little bit of a relief and he's going to be a decent outlet for Aaron a bit. And I don't think he's going to be a savior, but I think he's going to be a big help for them as long as he can stay healthy. And I think if you take all of that, because he had a hard time running the ball last year. They had a running back by committee. They were using a wide receiver for a running back for a little while, and it was all sorts of issues on the offensive side for him and on the defensive side, and he's still able to overcome that. So because he's so smart, he can run. I don't think he's going to run quite as much, but he's going to get you some yards with his legs. He can scramble with the best of them. He also has that sixth sense. I just think that this guy, pinpoint accuracy, throws the best football in the league. I see Aaron Rodgers throwing up huge numbers. He's going to have some rushing touchdowns. He's going to have a bunch of touchdowns through the air. I have him having the most touchdowns thrown this year, basically because of that the upgrade of Jimmy Graham at tight end and having the backup tight end as Mercedes Lewis. They could do a 2 tight end set and really just throw a ton of touchdowns in the red zone. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this season play out. And those are my top 8. It goes Drew Brees, Matt Ryan, Kirk Cousins, Phillip Rivers, Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, Jared Goff, and Aaron Rodgers.
We have.
I know. So somebody posted right here. When is Wentz going to start? So we'll get into that a little bit later when we're talking about the Thursday Night Football preview. Keith Sherry, he posted that. When is Wentz going to start? And that's mainly one of the reasons why he's not in my top 8 is because I'm not sure when he's going to start. Him not being cleared for opening night kind of scares me. So that's why he's not in my top 8. If he was healthy going in week 1, he would have probably been in my top 5 as well. So that's where we are at that. And we also have Jay Palermo, who wrote, Chris Carson or Penny will be a great asset for Russell. They can both catch out of the backfield. I think that's true, but his offensive line is so crappy that it's going to be tough. He's not going to have – you need a running back that can actually get you some yards to be able to free him up, especially with an offensive line like that. He doesn't have that. And his wide receivers, even Doug Baldwin, he's saying, like, my knee's not even close to 100%. It's not going to be 100% the whole year. That scares me for him. But I just know that he's so talented that he's going to get he's going to put up some big fantasy numbers. All right, go ahead.
Well, the entire offense runs through him.
Right,
So,
yeah.
I mean, there's no, So there are some similar names.
Okay.
Order's different.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a couple of guys I have on here that I know you don't.
Mm-hmm.
So this isn't exactly a complete lineup. My number 8 is Big Ben Roethlisberger.
Big Ben.
Every time, you know what's funny about Ben? He's never in the top echelon of fantasy quarterbacks. And yet, I think if you look statistically at his numbers, he always finishes in the top 10. Because here's the funny thing about the Steelers. And if you look at their roster this year, their offense is primarily going to go through Schuster, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell. And then maybe a little bit of sprinkle in a little of Jesse James in there. But the funny part is, and Le'Veon Bell, as we all know, is very much a dual threat. He touches the ball 400 times, 300 on the ground, 100 in the air. I mean, the guy might catch 80 balls to 100 balls.
Yeah.
That's not even an exaggeration. Well, guess what?
Huge
Who's
safety
throwing
valve.
the ball? Who's throwing the ball to all these guys? It's like the weirdest thing. That Ben Roethlisberger is like never in a top 10. I love Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah.
So
he's always that guy that you can pick up, like, depending on how deep your leagues are, that you're like, if you have a 10 team, there's a chance he might be as a backup, like he might be on the waivers. I don't know why it happens every year. But.
I don't know why it happens either, because I look at him and I say, man, that guy is steady. He's gonna give you. You should get 20 points out of him every fantasy game. Because he might dump off a 5-yarder to Bell, and he might throw a 38-yarder to Antonio Brown.
And you can have those absurd gains that he's like, he throws for 450 yards and 5 touchdowns.
He throws like 6-packs sometimes.
Yeah.
I think there was. Was it? I don't know if it was last year or the year before. I think he threw 2. I think he had 2 games where he threw 6 touchdowns each. I mean, he can really go bonkers. So to me, he has to be there.
Okay.
Number 7. So we're not far off here because I got Breeze in the number 7 spot. He still merits placement on this list, but as you said, yes, everything goes through him, but he's really not the focal point anymore.
Right.
He still scares you because he's deadly accurate. But to me, I look at Drew Brees and I say, similar to I think what Ronnie said earlier, is Drew Brees to me would be a guy where you would look at him and say, that's just a great quarterback.
Yeah.
But from a fantasy perspective, it's not there anymore. I mean, it's there, but it's not. He's still on the list. He's just not top 3. He's the lower third of the top 10, which is still a great place to be.
Right.
He's still a guy that you would want. He's still a guy that's going to start. I mean, if you're in a 10-team league, you'd be hard-pressed to find 9 other guys starting ahead of him.
Yeah.
So he's starting on somebody's team. He's starting on one of my teams. So there you go.
Okay.
And look, from a weapons perspective, he's got Thomas. He's got Kamara. Ingram will come back eventually. That'll be another guy. The offense will open up for him. So the points will be there. And the yards will be there. He's probably going to throw for, I'd put him in the 3,500-yard range, I would say.
And didn't they pick up Vereen too?
Yes,
as like the backup for Ingram while he's gone.
And while he's out, yeah, I think so.
That's
another
a good pickup.
Pass catching, yeah. Again, Breeze is the kind of guy he'll get a lot of short yardage touchdowns too. So, so my number, I guess this will be my 7, right?
6, number 6.
I'm sorry, 6. Yes, excuse me. Deshaun Watson, who I don't think showed up on your list.
No, he did not because he was hurt last year, and I just.
And obviously this is very
I mean, he could easily blow up. He could be the number 1 quarterback.
He could be 1.
Yeah.
He could be 1. It was hard for me not to include him on the list, just knowing the potential that's there, knowing that he's got guys like DeAndre Hopkins and Will Fuller and Lamar Miller. I mean, he's got weapons, and he in and of himself is a weapon. And his defense
could put him in great field position.
Right.
So if Watt's healthy, that's going to be a big deal.
Yeah. I mean, you have to like everything you saw out of Deshaun Watson before he got hurt. Again, I think to your point, if he had been healthy all last year and he had given you the kind of production that he was on pace for, I think he would have been in our top 3, both of us. It would have been hard to keep him out. As it is right now, number 6.
Okay.
Number 5. I don't know where you had him rated. I don't know if he was in your top 4. Russell Wilson.
He was,
Russ is still a weapon. Very much like Watson, he's a weapon unto himself. But let's be honest, his weapons. I know he's got some running backs that he can dump off to, but Doug Baldwin is a good receiver. He's not I wouldn't call Doug Baldwin a great receiver. He's a really good receiver. I think on a team with a pretty porous offensive line, I think Russ is going to be under a lot of pressure. I think it's kind of surprising I even have him this high, to be honest, because he could have a terrible year, actually. He really could. I mean, things could go really downhill really fast for this team. Because I just don't have a lot of faith in them. And not that, their defense is, it's not the Legion of Boom anymore. The Seahawks are kind of a big mystery to me this year. Because I could see them being really bad and going like 4-12. I could also see them kind of staying afloat and going 8-8 and kind of hanging in there. But let's be honest, everything in this offense funnels through Russell Wilson. So he's gonna just by sheer volume alone, he's gonna give you fantasy stats.
Okay.
It might be painful to watch at times because I think their offense could be very slow moving the ball. Very matriculate down the field kind of stuff. But he's still going to put up numbers. And honestly, once they get into the red zone, he's going to be their best option, either with his arm or with his legs. So I've got him at number 5.
So we have somebody here who, Matt, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Sheley. Shelley?
Matt Shelley. Oh, Shelley. Oh, Matt Shelley, yeah.
Okay. So he said Doug Baldwin is average at best.
I don't think he's average. I think he's above average, but I don't think he's Julio Jones. He's not DeAndre Hopkins. He's in the second tier.
He's a great number 2 option.
He's a good, yes. Like if he was on those teams, if he was like with the Falcons, he'd be a great number 2. If he was, if he
and plus he has that knee injury that's just like, And
then who's Russell Wilson's other guy? Tyler Lockett.
He doesn't really have much, and I mean he has Brandon Marshall, I think this year, doesn't he? I think he's there, but after the season that he had last year, and he got hurt, and he was dropping balls left and right. You got to see that he can provide you some actual help on the offensive side of the ball before you can really say he's going to do anything big. But Matt also wrote that the rankings on wide receiver and running back are so out of whack. All right. So what do you got for number 4?
Number 4. So here we're getting into it. We're getting into the final 4. These are the big 4. I mean, in some ways it seems hard to believe. In some ways it doesn't. But Phillip Rivers is right there.
Yeah.
He has to be. He has to be.
We both love Phillip Rivers.
I love him. He is one of my favorite non-Dolphins. I love him. He reminds
32 kids.
He reminds me of Marino. I mean, he reminds me of Dan Marino from the release, from the just sort of the attitude on the field, the way he conducts himself, the leadership qualities, and unfortunately, like Marino, he doesn't have any rings. Maybe that will change this year. Who knows? But Chargers have an uphill battle, but because everything goes in the AFC through it's either going to go through Pittsburgh or through New England. But listen, you know what? Phillip Rivers has all the weapons you could possibly want. He's got one of the best receivers in the league in Keenan Allen. He's got a really, really good dual threat running back in Gordon. It's, and look, Phillip Rivers he's the alpha male on that team. He's gonna throw all day. I mean, he's gonna throw the ball 40 times. Yeah. Even with a guy like Melvin Gordon, he's chucking the ball 40 times a game, and his arm is just rubber. Yeah. So.
And he does it every single year, no matter what team he has, what wide receiving core he has.
I'd have felt even more confident in this if Hunter Henry hadn't gone down. But listen, he's got Antonio Gates back, which was my, warms the Brian Man's heart segment the other day.
If Hunter Henry didn't go down, he might have been my yards for the season.
Maybe, yeah.
Because that was huge.
You know what though, Gates is a wily veteran at this point. He'll figure out ways to get open. He'll still come down with the ball. Yeah. It wouldn't shock me if Gates had like 500 yards receiving this year. Yeah. I could see it. Yeah. I could see it. He's a freak. He's still a freak. Yeah. So again, it's a downgrade from Hunter Henry at this stage in Gates' career, but nevertheless, it's going to be there for Phillip Rivers. You're looking at 4,000 yards. You're looking at 27 to 30 touchdowns. He's going to give you the numbers. All right, so now we're in the big three here. It was hard for me not to put this guy higher, but I just, for reasons that we'll get into down the road, I had to put Jared Goff at 3.
Yeah, all right.
Where did you have him? Did you have him at 3?
I had him at 2.
You had him at 2.
Yeah.
It was hard for me not to put him at 2.
Yeah.
Because of the reasons that you brought up. Like, he's going to throw for 4,500 yards this year. I mean, there's just so much. That team is so stacked with offensive weapons, and they have a young genius and an offensive-minded, coach. And I mean, just you listed off the guys, Woods and Cooks, and then of course you have Gurley, who is going to she'll catch a handful of touchdowns out of the backfield,
and he's going to catch like 75 balls, just like Le'Veon Bell.
They are Cooper Kupp is their third receiver.
Solid
it's an embarrassment of riches for Jared Goff. And listen, he's in year 3. And year 3 is going to be his breakout year. He's going to put up
Which he had a great year last year, too.
He did have a really good year. I mean, but this is year 3. He's going to be so comfortable. This is his second year under McVay, so he's going to be really comfortable under him. Everything should blossom for Jared Goff. He should just take off. So I've got him at number 3.
I like that pick.
And my number 2, my number 1.
Number 2 pick.
No, I'm sure you don't like my 2, and I don't like it either, because I hate that Tom Brady is still this high on this list at 41 years old. But here he is. Again, you know what? The way I look at Brady is just the way I look at the Patriots. I'm not going to believe that he or they can be knocked off until I see it. I need to see it. I need to actually see a down year for Brady before I can say he's not going to throw for 35-plus touchdowns and for 4,000 yards. I have to see it. Once I see it, then maybe I'll believe it. But at this point, right now, he's still a fantasy stud. He is still a top-tier fantasy quarterback. Do I hate him with every fiber of my being? Yes. Do I think he's an absolutely awful human being? Yes. Do I think he possibly is the devil incarnate? Yes, I really do. But is he a great fantasy quarterback? Without question. Without question. And you know what? And you look at his lineup, he's got a broken down and injured Rob Gronkowski. You have no idea who Sony Michel is going to be out of the backfield. Edelman is suspended. They traded Brandon Cooks. And yet, he's still going to figure out a way to do it. He's still going to figure out a way. And he is the one guy, and this should show you that as much as I hate him, this will show you how much I respect him. Because I'm sitting here telling you that of all these guys that we've talked about, he is the least on paper. He's got the least amount of weapons. And he will do the absolute most with the absolute least. So I don't want to ever hear a Patriot fan say I'm not being fair. Because I'm telling you right now, he's going to be in the top handful of fantasy quarterbacks this year with, on paper, the worst and or least amount of weapons I've ever seen for a guy who's going to be ranked this high in a fantasy quarterback ranking. So he's going to find a way to do it because that's Tom Brady.
The one thing that I will say about your number 2 is that there is only one thing that you're really allowed to do when Tom Brady is on the field.
Anytime Tom Brady walks on the field, you are well within your right to throw a big floppy on that field.
The Bry Man from when the Bills played the Patriots and threw a big floppy on the field.
From the Bry Man's greatest hits.
That is one of the Bry Man's favorite greatest hits. I just have to play that one more time.
Anytime Tom Brady walks on a field, you are well within your right to throw a big floppy on that field.
Jesus.
You at the end with the Jesus. We got a cat. We got a cat in the background here.
Oh, I did too. My cat was over there just making noise.
Yeah.
So Ronnie actually posted no Matt Stafford on these lists. And a frowny face.
Matt,
he's finished higher than Phillip Rivers in fantasy football the last 3 years, and I do think. I actually had him as like an honorable mention. I think he's probably
I did too.
He's in my top 10, but he's not in my top. He's not in my top 8. You're not. I can't hear you. Did you hit mute by accident?
No.
Oh, now I can hear you.
Oh, okay. I had him in my top 10. I think he was like 10, and I think I had Cam Newton 9.
Yeah, I had Deshaun Watson there, and
the cat vehemently disagrees with me.
And Matthew Stafford. So those were my 2, and then I had Carson Wentz kind of like hovering around there because I was like, I just don't know if he can start
in there.
If he starts game 2 and is healthy, then that changes everything. That changes things. But still, missing a game is a big deal in fantasy. Like, you need to win every week. So that's kind of one of those things.
My number 1, and then I have to shove the cat out the door, is you mother. All right. My number 1 is Aaron Rodgers for obvious reasons. You listed all of them. He's going to throw for 4,500 yards. They're going to throw, especially with the running game that they have. It's essentially non-existent. I mean, Ty Montgomery and Aaron Jones are your running backs. Everything's going to go through Rodgers. He's going to chuck the ball 40 to 50 times a game, and he's going to probably throw for like 40 touchdowns and 4,500 yards. It's going to be an obscene year. In Green Bay for him. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
Probable MVP.
And every time we mention Aaron Rodgers, this should be played. He's an attractive man. He throws a beautiful football. And man, is he good. He is probably one of, if not the greatest football players that I've ever seen.
Without a doubt.
Very talented man. Now it's just we're having he doesn't have the best offensive line. It's not bad, but he doesn't have the best offensive line. But he has an upgrade as a wide receiver and tight end. He has an upgrade with Jimmy Graham.
Yep.
So I have some, and even Mercedes Lewis as a backup. I mean, he hasn't really performed as he should have, but I expect Aaron Rodgers to get the most out of these guys. And
we talked about that earlier. A few weeks ago when we were giving our predictions, I said that has to be the best tight end tandem in the league. You've got a great receiving and pass catching threat, and then you've got a great blocking guy in Mercedes Lewis. And Mercedes Lewis can catch a ball or two too.
He can. He's always frustrated fantasy players because he should have been better offensively than he is. Yeah. But he is good for your team. I mean, and Jimmy Graham isn't the best blocker, but he has gotten better over time. So I guess let's see, what do we got here? We have how do you guys feel about Blount, even though he is at number 2 in Detroit? Do you see him getting some goal line TDs against the Jets?
Garrett Blount will always get goal line carries. Yeah. He's a guy that drives you nuts in fantasy because he's not good enough to start, but he could score like 10 to 12 touchdowns because he'll get the goal line. He'll basically steal them from your fantasy starting running back, which drives you bonkers. I hate LeGarrette Blount.
And he'll get you 2 to 3 yards whenever you need it. So if you pile those on top of him getting those
LeGarrette Blount will average probably 6.8 points per game fantasy. 6 points for the touchdown, 8.8 points for the 8 yards that he'll get on the ground. That's his.
He could get more than that. He could easily get around 20 to 30 yards and a touchdown.
At best, he's a 10-point guy, but he'll drive you nuts because he's going to poach touchdowns from your starting, fantasy running back.
How do you feel about him against the Jets?
He might again. It could be he could get 14. He could get like 14 points.
Yeah, because
I think touchdowns and
Sam
20
Darnold
yards
going. He's going to be their starting quarterback, the Jets' starting quarterback. He could. Depending on how he played, he could put them in really good field position. So if that's the case, look out because LeGarrette Blount could have a huge day. I mean, a huge day. He could literally score 3 touchdowns.
I mean, but listen, if you're asking us if you need to pick up LeGarrette Blount as a fill-in for this week, your fantasy team's already in trouble. You're in a bad way. I don't. Who is this, by the way? Is that Ronnie?
That's Keith.
Oh, that's Keith.
Yep.
Keith, you're in trouble. You're in trouble in week 1, man.
That's if he has him. I think he might be. It depends. If you're in a 14-team league.
All right, if you're in a 14-team league, which,
Even
by the way,
12,
I recommend
even 12
not being in, but
12 can get, the running back situation can get a little dicey in 12.
I hate 14-team leagues because you know why? Because there's a lot of Miami Dolphins that are being played in 14-team leagues. Guys like Kenny Stills and Devontae Parker are like, part of your equation there.
Mm-hmm.
We should go to a commercial so I can chuck this cat out of the basement.
We will be going to a commercial. He said he's putting him in his flex spot. So, and he's in a 12-team league. So that makes sense. I think that makes sense. That makes a little bit of sense. Depending on if he may be loaded up on wide receivers, although you would probably start your higher.
He's probably not a horrible option for that game, but I mean that's not a guy. Even in a 12-league team format, that's not a guy that you really want to regularly depend on in your flex spot.
Well, Ronnie said,
"Oh, shut up, cat."
Blount will be a good bet week 1 in fantasy. I expect him to get more touches than carrying this in week 1. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. It'll be tough.
I want to see if I can get this cat some airtime here because I think she kind of has earned it. Come here, Cindy.
And Keith said he has 2 running backs, 2 flex, and 4 wide receivers. So that's some serious offensive numbers there. That's like a high scoring league. It's kind of cool. I gotta love all the points, right? She does not. Who is that? Which cat is that?
That's Cinderella. There she goes. Do you
Cinderella?
see her? She's
She's like, put the damn slipper on my foot and send me to the ball.
Yes.
She is mad that you're keeping her in the basement sewing and cleaning.
Spinning yarn into gold.
Hanging out with her mice friends.
Do your job.
And then he said, Jamal Williams. Brandon writes, Jamal Williams. Just kidding. I don't do fantasy.
Obviously not.
But I did say that he's going to help out Aaron Rodgers. A little bit. All right, we will be right back after this. We're going to come back with our Thursday night football predictions, preview, all that kind of stuff in just a few seconds. We'll be right back after we play our commercial. See you in a few.
Gentlemen, welcome to the main event.
Sports and Sorts with Shane and the Bryman. 75% sports and 25% sorts.
Oh, yeah. We're back. Ronnie said his cat is meowing now from hearing your cat.
Great. Well, I just saw another one sneak by. There's going to be more crying. Son of a bee stain.
I want to thank all of you for being a friend. Thanks for listening and watching. Make sure you give us
our cats.
Make sure you give us a like on Facebook Live. Make sure that you do that for us. Thanks. Yes, that was Casey, my brother. He made that commercial. He does some directing stuff in his off time, and he's got a couple more commercials in the work for us. We're going to be doing that soon, which is always awesome. So, and I can't wait to see it because there's one that I think is going to be pretty darn funny. So. I'm looking forward to that. Casey's got a little talent for doing that stuff, and he's actually doing some other stuff. I think he's going to be filming like a mini series kind of TV thing with a bunch of his friends. He's also going to be he's got a music video that he's doing that he's going to be directing. So he's got some stuff in the works, and I'm very excited to see how it turns out. All right, so we're going to head on to the Thursday night football preview. And this, for me, for Thursday night, Eagles versus the Falcons. The Falcons are playing, I think, in Philadelphia. And the Eagles are a banged-up team right now. And I haven't seen anything from Foles this preseason to lead me to believe that he's going to channel his magic from the last season's postseason run. And the last time these two teams met was in the playoffs, and it was 15-10 for the Eagles. And that was a much healthier Eagles team with an offensive line that was much more consistent. And then you have the Falcons, who, as I had said before, have a ton of weapons on offense, and another year under offensive coordinator Sarkisian, and a fast, underrated defense that will likely give the Eagles and Nick Foles some fits. I predicted the Eagles to play worse than last season, but I don't think the drop-off will be drastic. I do think that it will take the Eagles a few weeks to get healthier, more in tune on offense, and start playing like the team they were last year, particularly when Carson Wentz comes back. I think then you're going to see it, but I think it's going to take a few games for them to get on the same page. I think they're going to get a couple of wins here and there, but I would not be surprised they started off 2-2. And I don't expect this to be a barn burner, but I do expect the Falcons to put up some points. And this really talented defense, I think, that the Eagles have is just really hurt right now. So I don't think that they're going to be able to keep the Falcons down. And mainly, I think it's because I'm drinking the Sarkisian Kool-Aid a bit, and they have a lot of tricks up their sleeve that he said, we have a ton of tricks up our sleeve, and we're going to start in game one. And I just think that that's going to find them in the end zone. I don't like how out of characteristic Doug Peterson's been, with the pressing questions with Carson Wentz and Nick Foles, and how the team was a bit chirpy in the offseason. And more importantly, they just don't look like they have. I mean, they actually look like they've regressed on paper a bit. So I have the Falcons coming out on top in the Thursday night football game, 24-20. But I also, with the game feeling like it was kind of in the hands of the Falcons the whole time. Like, I think that they're going to take an early lead and they're going to keep it going forward for a little while. Brandon Blaine he has the Falcons winning as well, I believe. And then you have Keith Sherry writes, I have Ertz and Aguilar going since Wentz is on my bench, and I am starting Matt Ryan, but I also have Freeman starting for the Falcons. I'm not sure. I mean, Ertz is he's a top tier tight end. Aguilar, I'm a little nervous about. Nelson Aguilar, he has times where he drops a lot of balls.
I would avoid him unless again we're talking about like a 12-14 team format where you need a guy like that.
He's got 12. He's got 12 teams.
Oh man, that's rough. As for the game, we're not far off. I'm with you in terms of the outcome. I also think there's going to be a little bit of a Super Bowl hangover here too. There
usually is.
They're going to raise their banner. They're going to get they're going to raise their banner. They're going to get their rings. Philly's going to be fired up. There's going to be a buzz in the crowd, but the air is going to come out of the balloon really, really fast because I think the Falcons are going to go in there. And I don't want to say dominate the game, but I think they're going to control the game.
Yeah.
I think Matt Ryan will be able to move that ball pretty well on the defense. But remember, the Eagles' defense is very, very good. It's a very, very talented unit, and they're not banged up. The offense is banged up because, Wentz is out and,
their offensive line's been really inconsistent in the preseason. And granted, it's a preseason, but I don't have the score being quite as high as you do either. I've got it being 24-16 Falcons. I think they get 3 touchdowns and then I think they kick a field goal in there. But I don't want to see any. I don't want to say that I don't see any scenario under which. Philly can't win this game. Of course they can. They're the reigning defending champions. They can win this game. They can win it on defense. But I think with Wentz being out, and look, I know Foles is as great a backup as you could possibly ask for in this league. Mm-hmm. Maybe the best. And he's a Super Bowl champion, and he's a Super Bowl MVP. That being said, he's looked bad.
He's the best that you could possibly get, in that situation. But he's not the guy that you want starting this game. You want Wentz there. And I think the biggest thing for the Eagles is going to be just a little bit of Super Bowl hangover. And I think that will affect them to the point where maybe they're not quite as focused as they need to be. You've seen this a lot with past Super Bowl champions who do kind of come out of the gates very slow. And I think they get caught up in the moment of seeing that banner go up. They get caught up in the moment of putting those gaudy paperweight rings on their fingers. Mm-hmm. And I think it impacts them. I think it takes a quarter before that kind of euphoria wears off a little bit. And, for the Eagles, they're first-time champions. This is like the Patriots, who've won, Super Bowl after Super Bowl after Super Bowl, and they really don't have hangovers like that. They get in and they take care of business. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be a little different for the Eagles, and I can't even fault them for that. I mean, they should still be dancing in the streets there in Philly. Mm-hmm. As a Dolphins fan, I'll never know what that's like. But it's like such a pity party. Oh, I'm such a train wreck, man. Oh my God, Darius Rucker knew what he was talking about, man. When he said, "I'm such a baby," the Dolphins make me cry.
I wish I had that ready for there.
Oh, I should have queued you up for that. I mean, you should have that on. You should have that ready at all times. My God. Anyways, 24-16 Falcons in the opener.
So Brandon likes your score. He thinks DJ Darth Vader. He thinks that he really likes your score, and he also played the violin, the little tiny violin for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So
thanks, Blaine.
I'll even put that on the.
He's got no idea. He's got 2 Super Bowls. He has no idea what my life is like. Can't imagine this pain.
I'm a Bills fan.
Yeah, you can imagine my pain. But not you can't. It's different. It's different for me. This is the one hole in my resume. It's a gaping hole because the Dolphins of all of my teams are my second favorite team behind the Yankees, and so it's a gaping hole. I hate it. I'm gonna die without having a Super Bowl.
So Stacy, I don't know what her last name is.
I used to, yes.
There's lots of consonants and not very many vowels. Her last name, it's
There you go. I'm just gonna let you just keep fumbling around. Maybe
and she gave a thumbs up. She just gave a thumbs up. So I don't know what the thumbs up was for, but I'm
probably
assuming
just saying hi.
Just your face, Yeah. You also give a thumbs up in the on the video. We appreciate that as well. All right, so let's see. He said, Brandon says, I've seen my organization fail the best quarterback of all time. That is very true.
I have pain. He doesn't
have pain, but he's seen his organization fail the quarterback.
Super Bowls. You're fine.
And that quarterback does have a Super Bowl.
And he's been able to witness two of the 5 greatest quarterbacks of all time.
Favre's not top.
Not to mention the fact that his franchise is just rife with historical significant Bart Starr.
He said he has pain. He said he has pain, but
does he mean physical pain, when he gets out of bed in the morning because he's maybe getting a little older?
I think it's more.
I don't think it's emotional pain caused by the Packers.
I think it's more cheeky. You can't say he has that much pain.
Oh, he's a cheeky fella.
And Ronnie says, haha, we are in the same boat. Yankees, Spurs, and a Lions fan. Yes, you are a Yankees fan. You are a Spurs fan.
He knows the pain. Sure.
You guys both have losing. And I'm a Yankees fan. I'm a Rockets fan.
I got
plenty of championships.
I've got plenty.
And you're a Blackhawks fan, which...
Yeah, I've got 3 there. I've got 5 with the Spurs, 5 with the Yankees, 3 with the Florida State Seminoles, 4
Buffalo
with the
Bills,
UConn Huskies.
Big goose egg.
I'm loaded.
Dolphins, goose
I'm loaded.
egg.
It's an embarrassment of riches except for the Dolphins.
Lions, goose egg. It's rough. It's rough stuff. Roof stoof. All right, so that's our Thursday night football. I mean, if you have your point totals, you put them in the comment sections. I'd like to see what everybody else says about what they think the score of the game is going to be and who's going to come out on top. I think. Brandon comes in again. I've consistently watched my organization fail on the other side of the ball. It hurts. Oh,
You're
Lord.
so foolish. He's got 2 Super Bowls. That's it. There's nothing more to say.
He said he has pain, but not dolphin pain. And he put the dolphin in there.
That's for sure.
Yeah. Dolphin pain is bad.
You don't know that. You don't know that pain. Yeah. It's a different kind of pain.
Marino was so close. He's so close. Oh, he's going to go back. Oh, it'll be easy. He's going to go back again.
Let's move on.
We have a couple of scores up there. Keith puts 27-24 Atlanta.
I like that. Right.
And Brandon, I'm assuming Brandon said Atlanta was going to win too. He says 21-13.
Okay.
That's a little less than yours. You had 21. Were you 24-16? Is that what you had?
16.
Yeah. So, and I don't think Keith obviously thinks that if you're doing the betting side of everything, I think the Falcons are getting 2 points.
Yeah.
There's some that are like at 2.5, but I think most of them are kind of consistently at 2 points. I think that they cover obviously because they're going to win. And then
Ronnie 27-17.
And
I think we're all in the same boat here.
Yeah, Ronnie says 27-17. We all think that the Falcons are going to win, but the over/under is 45. I think that is great. That is a perfect over/under because I think it's going to be under, but only by a point. And
I've got
you have it
4
under,
points.
and it's close. I mean,
5 points.
That could easily be beaten. So that's a tough one. That's a good over/under. I would not bet the over/under on this game. That's for sure. But as far as it seems like everybody's kind of in favor of the Falcons, kind of. I don't know if Eagles hating on the Eagles or if they just see what we kind of see, which is a lot of injuries and
I think
chirpiness and Super Bowl hangovers.
I think Wentz being out, and I think the Super Bowl hangover. I think those are just a couple of pretty big factors that will impact the outcome of the game. But I mean, again, if the Eagles win, I won't be shocked. Not in the least.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to the game. So, all right.
I can't wait.
We're going to take another quick break. We'll come back to talk about it a little bit of the Yankees, which are the Yankees-A's. They played a game last night. Man, I hate when they play the 10 o'clock
I
games.
hate West Coast games.
10:05. I was up at midnight, and I'm like, oh, man. And then I put my headphones on. I was listening in bed while I was doing Words with Friends. Trying to.
I woke up.
I was they took the lead 4-1. I was like, all right, I'm out. I'm going to bed.
I woke up at 1 a.m. I think. I looked at my phone, and it was 5-1 in the bottom of the ninth. And this is what I did. I just went, yes! And then I went to sleep.
Yeah.
That was it. That was it. There was nothing else.
All right.
It was a fist pump, and then.
Yeah, that's what I did. So I woke up. I was nervous that they were going to blow the lead because when I went to bed, it was 4-1. I was like, all right, I'm out. They've got this lead in hand. I'm going to bed. And I woke up and I was like, oh, please don't say 6-4 or something or 5-4. Yeah. And now you look at it, it's 5-1. I was like, oh, thank God. Thank God. And then Brandon also posted, I think the Eagles will be fine, just taking the L in week 1. I think we're all in agreement with that. I think they're going to be fine. All right, so we'll be right back. We're going to go to the Nick and Vince podcast. We'll come back to wrap it up with the Yankees, and then we will bid you adieu. All right, we will be right back in just a few seconds. But here's a little something from Nick and Vince.
Hi, I'm Nick.
And I'm Vince.
And we're from the Nick and Vince podcast, where we talk about arts, movies,
comic books,
history, science, really anything pop culture related.
But we also have...
we have occasional guests like podcasters, authors, and comedians.
Well, you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and Podbean.
You can also like our Facebook page, Nick and Vince Podcast, and follow us on Twitter
at Nick and Vince. And now, back to Sports and Sorts with Shane and the Bry Man.
All right, so we are back with a little bit of Yankee talk here. We got Yankees playing the A's, and then we're going to head over to the Mariners, and we're going to play the Mariners. And it didn't start off great. It did not start off great.
Nope.
It was pretty rough to start, actually. We kind of got it handed to us on the first game, and then this next game. The only thing that I've gotten from these two games is that I finally got to see the Yankees play the A's. I haven't seen them play the A's, especially when they've been during this hot streak, and I wanted to see the A's play for a little while. And I still, watching this team, yes, they have a great bullpen. I do not understand how this team is winning. And this goes back to the older days when, they built that team that just won and won and won and won, but it was a bunch of nobodies, and I don't understand.
Well, but they had those three great pitchers. That's the thing that's actually conveniently like left out of the Moneyball movie is that
you still got to score runs.
Hudson, Mulder, and Zito.
But you still got to score runs, and what they did was they put up a bunch of on-base guys, and they kind of changed the game to get them some to get them some runs on the board, so that those three studs could get the wins. And they certainly did. I mean, those three pitchers were very studly, and they were able to get some runs on the board for them. Now it's totally opposite because they're totally out of the bullpen. Like their starting staff is decent, but like Manaea went down. Because he hit his innings. He basically threw more innings this year than he's ever thrown. Now he's on the DL for probably almost a month. And then Anderson went down. He gets hurt all the time. So these are pitchers that we're pitching for them, pitching pretty well. And now you're kind of led by Edwin Jackson. He's pitched on like every team in the league. Everybody just gets rid of him because he's not great. He's kind of like a 5, but now he's like your ace. You can't have that. But they have a very extremely dominant bullpen. And
I think Mike Fiers is there. Don't you think he's their ace?
No, I mean I don't.
Or Manaea. I mean I don't know.
Manaea is their ace, but he's hurt.
Yeah.
So Edwin Jackson is put into that ace role. I think now. I mean he's pitching better than Fiers this year. Especially with the A's.
It's a pesky team. They're a pesky team. I mean, if you look at the construction of their lineup, guys like Jed Lowry and Marcus Simeon and Steven Piscotty and Dustin Fowler and Matt Joyce,
Chapman,
Chris Davis and Mark Cana. I mean, Matt Olson.
It's a bunch of nobodies to me. It drives me crazy.
I know they sound like nobodies, but these are solid players. I mean, they're solid players, and they're just
Chapman
mind,
and Simeon both have 20 errors at their position.
It's not. I know, right? We think Andujar's bad with like the fact that he's got like 15 or 18 or something like that.
I mean, it's bad for them. I mean, really bad. I don't understand how they're doing this. It's got to be just they're playing the teams at the right time, and that can happen. That can be really.
Jonathan Lucroy is a solid catcher. I mean,
but he's not offensively. I mean,
no, but it's just It's just one of those. Again, I think the best word to describe them is sort of pesky, and they've got heart. They play tough. They don't give up. They're just a pain in the what kind of team.
Yeah.
And I think they're the pitching is good, better than serviceable. You've got some starters. I mean, obviously you got a guy like Edwin Jackson who's really just pitching. I mean, he turned back the clock.
He's only pitched this well like a couple of times in his career. He did it once with the Rays and once with was it the Nationals?
Maybe, yeah.
Or the Cubs. I don't know. He did it once one other time.
They're playing above their heads. There's no doubt about it. But you know what? They are a fun, pesky team to watch. I mean, I would imagine as Yankee fans, I'm sure it annoys us. It's like the fly in the ointment. But I would imagine if you're an Oakland fan, that's actually a really, really fun team to watch. A very likable team that you can kind of get excited about. Kind of the way I think we felt about the Yankees last year. And this year, it's just this year that feeling has not been there. Not for me anyway. Because to me, the Yankees, despite the nice little feel-good story that is coming out of Luke Voigt, this Yankee team is still somewhat joyless to me. It's hard for me to watch them. I don't enjoy watching them anywhere near as much as I enjoyed watching them last year. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that, once you get a guy like Giancarlo Stanton, when you add an MVP to a lineup that was already pretty stacked, you start to get back into that mode as a Yankee fan where it's win or nothing. And, like last year, that it was not like that for us. That team pushed Houston to Game 7 of the ALCS. And I remember walking out of Yankee Stadium after Game 5 of that series, because I went to 3 or 4 playoff games last year.
Yeah.
And I remember walking out of – I went to 3. And that was the last one I walked out. But I walked out of Game 5. The Yankees were up 3-2. And I remember saying to my brother as we were walking out to the parking lot, I said, I can't believe this team is 1 win away from going to the World Series. Because I couldn't believe it. I couldn't. But this year, we went in thinking this team better get to the World Series. And that takes some of the fun away. And then when you see just sort of sometimes some of the lackluster effort that, or I don't know. I have said a lot of bad things about this team throughout the year. I believe I've called them gutless, heartless, hapless, hopeless, helpless cowards.
But that's mostly in the second half. For some reason, when they started getting injuries, they just really seemed down.
Yeah,
and the first half, they were coming back against teams left and right.
No, you're right. You're right. They were actually a much more likable team in the first half, and it wasn't just because they were.
I think partially is due to Aaron Judge getting hurt.
Yeah, yes, you're right. He's a big part of that. I mean, he's
literally,
one of those guys,
literally and figuratively.
He's one of those guys that makes you very actually proud to be a Yankee fan because of his whole personal story, his background, the fact that he's him and Trout and a few other guys like Mookie Betts are up there as like the faces of baseball.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's been tough without him. But hey, he picked up a bat, so
25 dry swings, 25 swings off a tee. Didn't have any additional pain, so hopefully that's moving in the right direction. I don't know. We'll see. I just don't feel like I still feel like this A's team is just gonna. I mean, especially after this series, their bullpen. I know they have a ton of arms. I know we're in the 40 man roster time as well. So like. They can throw out a lot of, but you don't want those guys in this crunch time. You don't want to have to pitch those guys in this crunch time. You want to use your studs. And I have a feeling with Manaea out, Anderson out, they are going to be relying on their bullpen a ton over the next couple weeks, and that is going to be their demise. So that's my overall feeling. I feel like that's what's going to take them out of the wild card spot. But in order for that to happen, the Mariners need to start playing some decent ball, and they've been playing horrible.
Well, they just lost.
Absolutely,
they just lost last night too to Baltimore.
And so they didn't gain any ground.
I mean, even the Yankees swept Baltimore.
Yeah. Jeez.
In a 4-game set.
Acting like the Yankees are bad when they have like the second best record in baseball.
I'm so tired of that, though. I see that. I go, you and I frequent the Yankees Daily group and the New York Yankees Fans First group. And honestly, I hate that whole thing about, wait a minute, where are all you haters now because the Yankees have the second best record in baseball? If you think even for a second that the Yankees are the second best team in baseball, you are certifiably nuts because they are not.
Right now.
They are not the second best team in baseball. I would put Houston, Cleveland, and obviously Boston. At least those three teams ahead of them. At least.
Chicago?
At least. The Cubs? Maybe. Close. I mean, the fact that they got Daniel Murphy for a bucket of bubble gum doesn't help, but...
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you know that Daniel Murphy was like a homophobe? I had no idea about that.
I've talked about that on the show before.
I did not know that. I just saw that story the other day, and I was like, "Wow, really?"
Yeah, he said some very kind of interesting.
Yeah, he's kind of a dick.
Kind of, yeah. Oh.
Oh man, I forgot.
Oh yeah, I forgot. I so forgot. Burger smorgy. I forgot. Mark Steribrat writes,
Mark, are you a Cubs fan?
Go Cubs, go.
Why did I think Mark was a Yankee fan?
Well, he's rooting for the Cubs now. All right.
I thought he was a Yankee fan.
That's pretty much it for our show. You're going to be able to find this on anywhere podcasts are played. We are going to be posting it in just about an hour or two. Please share that, help us out, get the word out. And we will be coming back again Saturday with another show to preview the Sunday night football games. Talk about that, and hopefully we'll get Callahan's on soon. And then Mark Steribrat writes, huge Cubs fan. Huge.
I'm sorry, Mark. Sorry, Mark.
All right, so I'm Shane Moore. You can find me on Twitter at @EinhornIsFinkel.
I'm the Bry Man. You can find me on Twitter at _Bry_man.
And more importantly, you can find the show at Shane and Bry Man on Twitter. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Shane and the Bry Man, where we go live every Monday, Wednesday, Saturday. We try and go as early as possible. Today, 9:30, 9:45-ish. That's where it's going to be most days. Wednesdays, usually around 11, depending on what the Bry Man schedule's like, because we got to work around his schedule. Right? Damn right. Can't even mess around with that.
No.
Don't even try.
No.
All right, so thanks for listening. We'll be back again Saturday. Talk NFL. And maybe a little Yankees. We'll see. We'll see what's going on. See what's going on with the Yankees. See how they're doing. we might just totally blatantly just wipe it away if they lose the next 3 games by then.
Hey, they got what I wanted. They went into Oakland. They've won at least one game. I'm already happy. It minimizes the damage.
Yeah, I'm expecting. Is Severino's pitching tonight, right?
Yeah,
I'm expecting them to win.
that's good for you.
Fires. I think Fires will be out. Fires will be out in the 5th inning. Throwing too many pitches. So that's my prediction. Bullpen's going to have to come out. I would be happy if he came out in the 4th inning and really tire the bullpen.
You win one in Oakland, you win one in Seattle, then I'm happy. If they win 3 games, party at the Bryman's house.
Sweet. I'm taking you up on that.
There is a fridge right over there full of craft beer.
Craft beer. I still have some too. Did I tell you I tried that coffee beer?
Yes,
I did, right? I sent you a text, right? It was good. It's not something that I would particularly order again, but I was glad for the experience.
Yes, no, that's a good. That's a good kind of. It could be a good post dinner.
Yeah. You know what I didn't talk about? I mean, we have 1 minute left. So what I didn't talk about was the prank phone call I got.
Yeah.
The show.
You texted me about this. Yeah, we need to. What happened here?
I don't know. Somebody called me.
Somebody called your cell phone?
My cell phone, and was talking about. I can't remember the beginning part because I was so like I was like, what? It said no caller ID. No caller ID.
No caller ID.
Yeah, and it was like, I don't remember. It was like, oh yeah, he's a great show or whatever. And then they were like, I can't believe you let Bryman compare David Price to Andy Pettit. And then I was like, who the heck is this? And they hung up. And I was just like laughing for like 10 minutes after that.
It almost sounds like something Joe Pacino would have done. But why he would be calling from a no caller ID?
I don't even know how he'd have. I don't know how he'd have my phone.
Got your number? Yeah, right. That's the other part.
It's probably somewhere. It's probably somewhere on there. I don't know. Somewhere on Facebook or something.
That is like super bizarre.
It was. Yeah. I kind of recognized the voice, but I wasn't 100% sure. I was like, that voice sounds familiar, but I couldn't.
Howard Stern. That would be so great if you just got pranked by Richard and Sal. That would be awesome. Oh my god.
I don't listen to Howard Stern, so I have no idea who that is. But
you don't listen to Howard Stern?
No.
Did you say you don't know who that is?
I don't know who those two guys are. No.
Oh, okay, but you know who Howard Stern.
Howard Stern is. Yeah, I used to listen to him years ago.
Richard and Sal are, they're on his staff. They actually do all the prank calls together. Richard and Sal.
Ah.
They do like to pick on podcasts, except they mostly go after southern podcasts like Swap and Shop kind of stuff, which is really hilarious. Oh my god, it's so great.
All right. Well, thanks for listening.
I need to listen to Howard today. He's got Paul McCartney on. Sir Paul McCartney. Yeah, stay classy, Planet Globe. Bye.
Bye. See you later, everyone.
Stay classy. But mostly stay classy. There's 5 people watching. I kind of don't want to hang up.
60% of the time, it works every time.
That doesn't make sense.
Bye.
Are you in a glass case of emotion?
You can find Sports and Sorts with Shane and the Bryman on iTunes or www.sportsandsorts.libsyn.com.